Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Yasin Hassan and I am to be your instructor. Today class we are discuss the computer generation. So the computer generation, the generation is our terminology in computer which is used for the change in hardware. But nowadays the definition on the generation in computer is the change on both software and hardware. There are totally 5 generations known until today. First generation is start from 1940 and its end on 1956. In the first generation, the vacuum tube is used for circuitries and magnetic drum is used for memory. Vacuum tube is just like an electric bulb, but the drawbacks is that are frequently burnt, mean fused. Actually, the vacuum tube is an electronic switching device. A vacuum tube is a glass device used filaments as a source of electronics and could control and amplify the electronic signal. On those days, the vacuum tube is the only device of the high-speed switching. The vacuum tube performs computation on milliseconds. The first generation of the computer use machine language. It means that they are completely dependent on the low-level language. The machine language is only language that understand the computer directly. So this generation the magnetic tape is also used. The main feature of the first generation are the vacuum technology is used in the first generation, but it is unreliable. These systems completely depended on the machine language and they are very costly. So the only organization will use these machines. They generates lot of heats and it is the drawbacks on the first generation. So slow input and output device. The computer in the first generation are huge in size, so they occupy the entire room and they have regularly need air conditioners. These systems are not portable. Portable mean we cannot carry them from one place to another. These systems consume a lot of energy. IBM 701 and IBM 650 is the example of the first generation computers. The second generation is start from 1959 to 1933 it end. In the second generation, the vacuum tube are replaced by transistor. The second generation computer use transistor for the internal operations. Transistor is a device which is made from semiconductor and it controls the flow of electricity through the circuit. For a memory, the magnetic core is used and the first generation the magnetic drum is used. These machines use the assembly language. Assembly language is a low-level language and they have need a translator which name is assembler. William Shockley, J. Burden and W. H. Breeden developed the transistor at the Bell Laboratory on 1947 and displayed them to public on 1948 and they win a Nobel Prize on 1956. But their transistor was not used on the conjunction with the computer until 1959. Transistors were smaller, less expensive, required less electricity and emitting the less heat than vacuum tubes. For inputting the data, the punch card is used and punch card is also used in the first generation. In the second generation, the assembly language are used, but the high-level language like Fortran and Cobalt is also developed in the second generation. In the second generation, the computer used batch processing and multi-programming operating system. One transistor replaced the 40 vacuum tubes, so the size on the second generation system is reduced. The main feature of the second generation are, in the second generation, the first feature is that the transistor is used, it is reliable as compared to the vacuum tubes. In the second generation, the size is reduced as compared to the first generation computer. In the second generation, generate less heat as compared to the first generation computer. Second generation system consume the least electricity as compared to the first generation computer. They are faster as compared to the first generation computer system. But the drawbacks on the second generation is that the system are still very expensive and they require AC. IBM 1620 and IBM 1794 are the example of second generation computers. Third generation is start from 1963 and end on the 1975. In these generation, the computer use integrated circuit on the silicon chip. Integrated circuit are the circuit made of transistor, resistor and capacitor. Integrated circuit was invented by Noyce and Kolbe. The IC technology is also called microelectronic technology. They were characterized with the high-level programming language which required logic such as BASIC, Pascal, C, COBOL and Fortran. BASIC stands for Beginner All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code. Is easy to use high-level programming language. Pascal is another programming language and the Pascal name after the 17th century mathematician Blaise Pascal. C is also high-level programming language developed by the Bell Laboratories. And COBOL stands for Common Business Oriented Language. It is released on 1960. And Fortran stands for Formula Translation. Fortran was developed by IBM on 1954. Fortran is the first high-level language. It is used for scientific purpose. The main feature of the third generation are, in the third generation, the integrated circuit is used that are more reliable as compared to the previous two generations, mean first generation and second generation. The size on the system was reduced. Generate less heat as compared to the first and second generation, and the system are faster. They required AC, but still the system are costly and they consume less electricity. The third generation support the high-level language. The example of third generation computer on IBM 360 series. Fourth generation is start from 1975 and end on 1980. In the fourth generation, the computer use very large-scale integrated circuits. Very large-scale integrated circuit having 5,000 transistor and other circuit elements. The fourth generation computer become more powerful, compact, reliable and affordable. The personal computer is introduced in this generation. All the high-level language like C, C++, etc. are used in this generation. The object-oriented programming language such as Visual Basic and Java are the characteristic of this generation. Object-oriented programming language are those languages which we cannot access directly. These language, the elements are accessed by member function. The main feature of the fourth generation are the system were very cheap and they are accessible to everyone. Portable and reliable use of PC and very small size. So in the fourth generation the size are very reduced. In the fourth generation the concept of internet was introduced and no AC is required. The Star 1000 and Crazy 1 supercomputer are the example of fourth generation. They had faster and larger the primary and secondary storage as compared to the third and second generation. Fifth generation is start from 1980 and to till date. And the fifth generation, very large scale integration technology are used. This generation is based on the parallel processing hardware and artificial intelligence software. Artificial intelligence is the emerging branch on the computer science, which interpret the mean and method of making computer think like human being. All high-level language like C, C++, Java, .NET, etc. are used in this generation. The artificial intelligence include robotics, neural network, game playing, development of the expert system to make decision on the real life situation, and natural language understanding and generation. In this generation, the advancement on the superconductor technology occur. The very powerful and compact computer are available at the very cheap rate. Desktop, laptop, notebook, ultrabook, Chromebook are the example of computer in this generation. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe the CSS PMS preparation YouTube channel and share with his friend.